We're talking about how to start an LLC in Illinois, and what you can see behind us here is a checklist that we're casting from the computer. I'm going to be working through this, and here you can actually see the checklist to start your LLC. But before we get to that, what I want to talk about is something called the LLC dumpster fire. Now, what that is you set up your LLC, but you do things incorrectly, and it can cost you tens of thousands of dollars in legal damages down the line because of these really simple mistakes. So it's things such as not understanding terms such as piercing the corporate veil, commingling funds, registered agent, and pass-through taxation. And then it's also after LLC formation. You have things such as like, how does the LLC renewal process work? Do you have the proper business licenses and permits? And to better understand these things, what we're going to do is we're going to zoom out a little bit to start this video. So we're going to talk about what an LLC actually does for your business. So then what we can do is kind of zoom in and talk about setting up your LLC correctly for you so it's doing what it's supposed to do for you. Now, what is that exactly? Well, the LLC does two things. It offers limited liability protection, and it also offers pass-through taxation. To best explain this, we're going to go through an example of owning a coffee shop, but in this particular case, we're talking about doing it without an LLC. What you have here is a sole proprietor, the business owner in the center. They have their personal assets on the left-hand side, their home, car, bank account. On the right-hand side, they have their business assets. So things like their business bank account, point of sale, the actual physical location of the coffee shop, espresso machine, lights. Everything is tied directly back to the business owner, which is a no-no. What this does is it creates a lot of potential liability for this person. Now, in another example, this is owning an LLC that owns the coffee shop. What you have here is your personal assets on the left-hand side. So the bank account, home, car. And on the right-hand side, you have what's called Acme Coffee LLC is what we're calling it. And that owns all these assets within the LLC. The important thing here, though, is this red division in the middle. This is called the corporate veil. Now, if you recall earlier in the video, we talked about a term called piercing the corporate veil. And what we're going to do is we're going to explain that through an example of commingling funds. Now, commingling funds is when you start a business and you have your personal bank account and you start running transactions through that personal bank account. What happens in the hypothetical scenario of, let's say that you're sued, somebody gets hurt at your coffee shop, they hire an attorney. That attorney is going to try to find cracks in your LLC. The way that they do that is they look into things and they may find like, oh, this person's been commingling funds. They present that information to a judge. If the judge agrees with them, they may grant them permission to pierce the corporate veil. Now, what that means is this red division in between here, in between your business and personal assets dissolves. So when they sue you, they can not only come after your business assets, but also your personal assets as well. So that's why things such as commingling funds is so important to understand so that you don't have these small cracks in your LLC that can become huge liabilities down the line. Now, what I want to talk about next, though, is explanation of pass-through taxation. The IRS is not taxing Acme Coffee LLC. What you can see here is you've grossed $140,000. You've had $90,000 in expenses, resulting in $50,000 of net income. That net income passes through onto the business owner's personal tax return, also known as flow-through taxation. If you ever hear those, they're interchangeable. So I just wanted to make you aware of that the IRS is taxing you on your personal tax returns with an LLC. But with an LLC, it's also very flexible. So in the future, you can apply what's called an S-Corp designation to help reduce your tax burden. That comes into play about $40,000 to $50,000 of net income. I'm just making that mention right now because I don't want you to miss out on these potential tax savings in the future. Now, we're going to be talking about that in like the third video of this series, and it is a series, and I highly suggest you watch all of them because it's going to make sure that you set up your LLC correctly, but then also make sure that you're taking advantage of the things that it affords you down the line. Now, what I want to talk about now is a checklist to start your LLC. Number one is get this checklist for yourself. You're going to see a QR code on the screen that you can scan. It's a free checklist for you to download for yourself, but there's also a link in the description below this video as well. And when you get this, it's more than just a checklist. It's got some cool bonuses here. So these bonuses here, there's an AI chatbot that you can communicate with that's going to walk you through your state and exactly what you need to know. There's a free charitable opportunity. This yearly accounting calendar, which again, we're going to get into video 3 of this series, is going to explain all of these dates and why they're important for you. There's also a glossary of terms. I would highly suggest actually watching the video in here. This will help you avoid an LLC scam that's very common that people end up wasting $200 on. But there's just a lot of good details in here to help guide you through the LLC formation process. Once you get set up, what you need to do is you need to figure out which path you want to go. Do you want to go through the state website? Do you want to go through online legal tools, these LLC services online? Or do you want to go through a business attorney? For the sake of this video, we're going to go through the state website. Just know that when you go through a business attorney, it's going to be the most expensive for sure, but they can also get very dialed in for your specific situation. In the next video of this series, we're actually going to deep dive comparing these 3 different options, and just know that I've seen people overspend by $1,500 by going with the wrong option when it comes to especially the online LLC services out there, because some of them really have a lot of hidden fees. So we're going to be deep diving in the next video on that. But like I said, we're going to go through the state website. Now, to get started, what you need to do is actually have an LLC name. So you got to decide on your business name, and you need to do a few things here. One is it has to be a unique name. It has to be something that's not already taken in the state database. But also, it doesn't need to be the perfect name, and that's because you can have an LLC name like Acme Coffee LLC, and within that, you can have something called the DBA, doing business as, or a fictitious name sometimes referred to as, and that can be something like Espresso Yourself Cafe. So just know that your LLC name doesn't necessarily have to be your brand name. Once you come up with a name here, what we're going to do is we're going to click the state directory link. We're going to click on Illinois here. And then what we're going to do is a search here. Now, if I did, like the Bulls, right? Clearly in Illinois, and I got to click business name here. Clearly in Illinois, there's going to be a lot of names with Bulls on here, all right? But if I kind of just jam out on the keyboard and do a search like this, and again, I got to click business name and click submit. It says no results found. That is what you're looking for, is no results found for the name that you come up with for your name within Illinois. So once you have that, then you can proceed forward to the next step. Now we're going to get your LLC set up. There's a little half step you can do here, which is registering your LLC name. The reason I mentioned this one is some people get confused. They think if they register the LLC name, they have an LLC. You do not. What that is it's kind of like buying a domain name. You don't have a website, but you own that domain. You can register the LLC name to set up your LLC later. So I wanted you to just be aware of that, because it's kind of just semantics there, but it's really important that you don't register your LLC name and think that you have an operating LLC. What you need to do is write your articles of organization. Again, there's a state directory list here, and we're going to scroll down to Illinois. And when you click here, this is what's called the Articles of Organization. This is the actual document that the state files that makes it so that you have an LLC. It's pretty simple. It's not too daunting here. As of making this video in 2024, it's a $150 filing fee when you fill out the Articles of Organization. That is paid to the Secretary of State. There's no way around that filing fee. You are paying that regardless of which service or route you go for setting up your LLC. But here's where you're going to enter that unique LLC name. Address of principal place of business records. So it's just, where the address is. Articles of Organization effective on. Most people, the filing date is what you're going to pick. If for some reason you're spacing it out, some people will do this because it's like early December and they don't want to pay for a renewal if it's required in the first quarter of the year. So they'll push it into January just to kind of start on a new year. But most people are going to do the filing date. Registered agent's name and registered office address. Now, they don't do a great job of explaining this. What a registered agent is a third party that handles important documentation and communication for your business. Now, they're really important because let's say in that example where you're being sued, you're going to get something called the service of process notice. That is basically saying that you need to show up to court. Your registered agent is going to make sure you get that documentation. They're going to make sure that you have all the information that you need when you're showing up to court. So they kind of dot your I's and cross your T's for your business. Now, the rules for the registered agent is they have to have a physical mailing address within the state of Illinois. It cannot be a P.O. box. And you have to have a registered agent on file. So one of the things that's a downside with the state site is they don't really give you a lot of information, and they definitely don't provide you any registered agent services. If you go with online legal tools, they have those services provided for you through professional registered agent services. And then the other thing that's neat is one of the services in particular actually provides it for free for the first year, which we're going to talk about in the next video in this series. So that's why a lot of times people prefer those online legal tools. Next here, we have purpose for which the limited liability is organized. Obviously, that's just like, what is the purpose of your business? What is it? The duration. Most people, it's perpetual. But if the operating agreement provides for a dissolution date, enter that date here. We're going to talk about the operating agreement in a little bit as well. This is optional, but other provisions to the regulation of internal affairs. Most people leave that blank. Limited liability company has or will have the effective date or filing one or more members. This is a good thing to know. Difference between a manager and a member. A member is, let's say you're starting up a business. It is a solopreneur type situation. It's just you. You are the member of that. It's a single member LLC. But you can also have managers. That's like where somebody might own the LLC, but somebody else is the manager of it, meaning that they're the ones that's actually going to be running that business. So that's what the difference between member and manager is. Most likely, you just have a single member LLC, but everybody's situation is different, so you may want to look into that. Name and address of the organizers. All right, so you can put all this information in here, you sign and date it, put the address, and then that's where you're going to actually mail this in with a $150 check. Now, of course, with Illinois, you can go on their state website and go through the process on there as well. You just have to create an account through their online portal, but that is also an option for you as well. Now, once you get all this stuff set up, one thing you're going to want to consider is creating and signing an LLC operating agreement. What that is it's a situation where an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. The LLC operating agreement is not required in the state of Illinois to set up your LLC, but it's a really good idea. Let's say that you have a business partner with those coffee shops and they explode. You have like 26 locations, and then one day that partner wants out of the business. Well, how do you handle that? Well, it's going to be a lot of time with attorneys, which means a lot of money and frustration. Now, if that was already spelled out in an LLC operating agreement where it lists the manager's members, their roles and responsibilities, what do you do if somebody wants to exit the business? These things are already spelled out in the operating agreement. Then you just simply point to that document, and that is what you do. It is legally binding. That is why an LLC operating agreement is a good idea to set up as soon as possible, because again, it can save you a lot of heartache down the road. That's really what we're trying to do here is we're trying to avoid those potential pitfalls into the future by having it filled out and set up correctly today. Now, there are a lot of different boilerplates you can find online. Most of the online legal tools will have those available for you. The state website typically won't help you with this. A business attorney will do one for you, but it's going to be the most expensive route. Just depends on what you need. But a quick Google search of LLC operating agreements, you can find many of them out there. Setting up an EIN. There's an IRS link here. What an EIN, an employer identification number, is like a social security number for your business. Basically, it's a way for the IRS to identify your business. If you're going to run payroll, you're going to need an EIN. Getting your business bank account set up is much easier if you have your EIN. Also, if you're applying for like a business loan or an office space, it looks more professional providing an EIN number as opposed to your social security number. It just makes your business look more professional. So this page right here is a way that you can do this for free for yourself. If you go through the online legal tools, they also have packages that include EIN formation, so they can do that for you as well if you don't want to do that on your end. Next, we're going to talk about obtaining business licenses and permits for your LLC. There's a really helpful SBA resource here, but what I'm going to do is just give you an example here. Let's say that you are starting a brewery. Now, you're going to be brewing beer, distributing beer, and serving beer on premise. Those three things can each require different licenses and permits, and they can happen on the federal level, the state level, and the local level. Now, what I would recommend here is start on the local level and just, call your town hall, your town clerk, whatever it may be, and just say, hey, I'm starting this business. It's XYZ. This is what it does. And I'm just wondering if there's any businesses or licenses that are needed, any licenses and permits that are needed for this business. You can even email them. I've found, because I've actually tested this out, I sent out to 5 town clerks just asking for the right department, and 2 of them got back to me. So email is kind of unfortunate in that way. So I would just get on the phone, call them and say, is there anything on the town and county level that I need? Then for the state level, what you can do is you can just Google your state and then search business licenses and permits, and then it'll take you to the state website. And you can do the same thing on the federal level as well. But just know that when you get your LLC set up, that's not necessarily all you have to do. Like if you're a chiropractor, a dentist, you're starting a construction company, these are things that require additional licenses and permits. I just want to make sure that you don't skip that step. Now, when you go through the online LLC services, most of them will actually provide this as an additional fee for you, but they'll make sure that you get the proper licenses and permits set up as well. Now, what we're going to talk about in the next video here are a few different things. We have a cost calculator that's embedded on this page. I'm not going to scroll down and look at it right now, but we're going to go through and we're going to, down to the dollar, figure out what your LLC is going to cost, not just to start it, but also 5 years out. Like what's the total cost of owning that LLC? We have a star rating system that we're going to explain the differences between going through the state website, business tools online or online tools, and also a business attorney. We're going to talk about something called domestic and foreign LLCs. This is really important that you understand this when you're setting up your LLC. Even if it doesn't apply to you today, it may in the future. So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to deep dive on questions worth asking about which path is the right path for you when getting set up with your LLC. So again, I'd highly suggest you get this free Notion doc here. This is free for you to get. And then what we're going to do is we're going to break this down in further detail in the next video. So I'm going to catch you in that video and make sure that you don't overpay when you're getting your LLC set up and making sure that everything is done correctly for you. All right, we'll catch you in the next video.